My wife and I bought our first home about a year ago. We found ourselves in a situation where interest rates had more than doubled from their lows about 3 or 4 years ago. And one of the things we had talked about at the time, and something I talk about with my young clients buying their first home, is that although it may not have been the most optimal financial decision when we thought about how much interest we were going to pay over the next 20 or 30 years, we didn't want that to come at the cost of making a sound life decision for our family. And so a lot of young people might find themselves in a situation where they file for their initial mortgage and they are in an unfavorable interest rate environment. But I think what was calming to us when we filed for our mortgage was the idea that we may have the opportunity to refinance our mortgage down the line. And so when I think of a home mortgage refinance, I think of it as a great tool that may sit in your toolbox for 5, 10, or 15 years. But it's really good to know that it may be there for your family. And it gives you great incentive to keep saving and to keep a clean credit score and to keep in touch with your banker and keep an eye on interest rates to see if interest rates come down significantly from where they're at. Is there a way to refinance our mortgage and ultimately save ourselves a lot in the total amount of interest we're going to pay on our mortgage and even help us with our monthly payment that we're making? I do think one thing that goes along with that is even if you look at where interest rates are at or how much your total payment will go down, you got to think about how much is it going to cost me to put a refinance in place in the first place. There's a lot of time, effort, paperwork, and ultimately some costs that may come up front with refinancing a mortgage. And so you want to be very clear on how much is this going to cost me up front? How much am I ultimately going to be saving? And is it worth all of the time and expense in order to go through that process? But I think by being aware that this is a planning technique that may be at your disposal, keeping a clean credit score, keeping an eye on interest rates, and keeping in touch with your banker, you can really stay on top of whether or not a refinance may be a good fit for your family and time it well so that you can minimize the amount of cost you end up with when it comes to your mortgage.